漂亮，是的。这盘最后一波逆视角迈进了决赛。
欢迎回来，您现在收看的是2017风暴英雄世界锦标赛东区决赛的最后一场比赛，冠军的争夺将在来自韩国赛区的 L5 和 MVP Black 之间展开。接下来，让我们有请双方队伍登场。
The top 2 teams from Korea prepare to battle for a $30,000 grand prize and, maybe even more importantly, the title of Eastern Clash Grand Champion. Dread, MVP Black versus L5, the finals we anticipated, but maybe not in the manner expected.
Yeah, very much so. You know, the fact that MVP Black was able to get the upset there in the winners finals of the bracket over them in a very, even the gameplay there, you know, in a very unique fashion to be able to dominate L5. You know, it's just crazy, you know, the fact that we are here and that MVP Black was finally able to take out L5.
They took out L5, but I guarantee to you that that is nowhere near enough. They don't just care about beating L5. Yes, that's great, but they will not rest until they are once again champions.
应该要一波了，应该要一波。这个 boss 打完的话，就可以宣告 L5的胜利。 SPD 差一点到16节，唯一的机会了，尊严一战，哇，完了，
来是
锤子嘣，哇，最后武僧把自己的胜利场给到了维拉，GG， 心服口服。中路不接触，哎呀，所以直接被跳了，2个大。
对，那这样的话，恭喜啊，5-0拿下10pick。
救命对决，Eastern对决 MVP Black 赢下了第一个小分。这花开了，不错，稳当。
看罗斯被收走了，
一发入魂。
这是扳回一分。
最后11%守住了，哇，这个翻盘翻的真的是有点厉害啊，非常的极限。
这还好吗？
车打击太快了。
是。好的，那我们这边恭喜 L5，好，那我们这边可以恭喜 MVP Black。
2-2。长赛季啊，在韩国区可是3-0了。 MVP Black。
那个时候，哇，看 Saki 直接
他要对对开始。好，前面被出了个麻袋，武森给了个大招。
A look back at the last 3 days of the Eastern Clash, where we started with 8 teams, 3 from China, 3 from Korea, 1 from Taiwan, and 1 representing Southeast Asia. Now we are down to the #1 and #2 seed from Korea. As expected, as anticipated, we very much thought that it would be L5 versus MVP Black, but a lot of people came in this weekend and said, can anyone even take a game off of L5? MVP Black took a series, can they take more?
I think I'm going to answer with I think so. You know, the playstyle that they presented in the winners finals was enough for me to be convinced that there's a chance, right? I don't think I'm sold that I think they are the better team necessarily, because it felt like they kind of put out a lure and L5 was very quick to take bite, right? And I think if they take the adjustments and understanding of maybe why that series went so poorly for them, that they do have the tools to really kind of come out on top.
We can't forget game #1 between these two. L5 was in control.
Yeah, you know, about 91% of the core of level of control there. And,
Yes.
you know, that panic in the end. That being said, you know, MVP did a lot of things very right to be able to deal with that back door. Just the main thing was, you know, was it necessary? And that was, you know, debatably the reason why they ended up losing that series overall. And another, you know, major point when looking back to that series is the Tyrael. That is, it has to be changing, right?
Yes.
Like the Tyrael, I think, is going to be just a flat ban almost across the board in this series.
MVP Black reigned over competitive heroes for a lot of 2016, but slowly lost steam, sort of limping to the finish line in 3rd at the Gold Club World Championship. Finally, some roster adjustments made, put them solidly in 2nd place in the Heroes Global Championship of Korea. I think they come into this series with a lot of hope, with a lot of optimism, but L5 is by no means any less strong, even having that victory over them.
Yeah, and, you know, I think being able to watch them play Tempest, and we saw, you know, exactly what we'd expect in that series, shows that, you know, maybe the loss didn't really kind of affect their mentality as a group. We see the map bans there, and for map #1, MVP Black has opted to move towards Cursed Hollow.
Cursed Hollow for game #1. We've seen some Abathur play starting to come out of Korea. A lot of globals once again. It's so interesting to see the difference of inter-series metas between teams depending on which 2 Korean teams are playing. Where globals place, where Tyrael places within the draft.
Yeah, and, you know, also Zeratul, you know, we talked about the success that MVP Black has had when it comes to priority into the Ragnaros and Zeratul combo. Is that something that, you know, we want to see L5 remove? Is that something that they're considering as a major problem as well, now that we know that Tyrael is going to be such a hot topic here between the 2 teams? And I'm excited. You know, I'm ready to get into it. The drafting, I think, is going to be a major point of success for both of these sides. The question is, who has the mentality, the understanding of the pros and cons of what they experienced in the first rotation here? Ragnar's going to be removed, so that combo we just referenced is not an option. Tacit are banned out. That means Tyrael's left up. L5 expect the lock in there, no hesitation, not even making it 2 seconds deep there. That is going to be theirs.
1 second Tyrael pick, but a 1 second, even less Falstad Zeratul to follow.
Oh.
Expect that if we get into games 4 and 5, this will slow way down. But for now, the teams very much know how Cursed is going to go.
Yeah, the Tyrael pickup here for L5. Tyrael won every game in the series that between these 2 teams before. And, you know, I don't think there's going to be changing anytime soon. That being said, a lot of counter control on the side of MVP Black with that Zeratul, going to be able to stop a lot when it comes to the sanctification. Both of them, I would call them both soft counters to one another, more of a skill matchup maybe than anything. But the Falstad is going to be, you know, provides that global and macro play that MVP Black struggled with, it seemed like, but not relying on Kyocha being on the Dahaka to make that happen. And I think that's a better approach to this series for MVP Black if they're going to be successful.
Yeah, Kyocha very likely to be playing Zeratul, which opens up some options for how Reset and Sake are going to fit into the draft for MVP Black. A few seconds left. Malfurion is still a possibility for Swoy here. They're going to pick that up as well as Muradin.
Oh man, Tyrael and Muradin together. We've seen a couple of setups between the two, and they're one of my favorite duos. You know, I even talked about this when we got to see the Tyrael Arthas. The next one is going to be the Tyrael Muradin. The damage and threat of the two together is just, you know, amazing, especially if we see a more offensive build when it comes to the Muradin, which typically that Tyrael is going to allow to make happen here. So a lot of control, a lot of comfort as well for L5 here, knowing, you know, Noblesse has the opportunity to play the Muradin.
Target ban on SCSC's Vala. Vala has been a strange one in drafting. Coming into today, she was the most contested hero at this event, and yet a 39% win rate. But a lot of different teams playing her. Really, almost every single team across the board.
It is very interesting. Another one, you know, that has had kind of a unique value versus success across the board has been, you know, Tychus. The fact that Tychus kind of had no presence whatsoever. Then we have seen, you know, in the last series between these two teams, MVP Black put a lot of priority into it and then had quite a bit of success when it came to at least the impact that you could see him having onto the game.
Yeah, I would almost say that the two are leading characters in the same story, which is Tychus' nerf so severe that he cannot be played? And if so, who is the replacement? Is it Lunara?
Yeah.
Is it Vala? MVP Black says maybe it was never not Tychus.
Yeah, maybe it's not that big of a deal. And talking about nerfs really not being that big of a deal, they're going to lock in the Varian here. A huge old school-ish combo. It's not that old school because Varian hasn't been that oh my goodness, around that long.
We're that excited.
Yeah, but you know, you have the reset opportunity between the Zeratul Li Ming, one of the most powerful duels in the game. Varian Li Ming combo together, the kill potential existing there used to be immense. So just this very offensive, you know, engaging, heavy composition here for MVP Black. So the question is, you know, is the Varian going to be that successful here on Cursed Hollow? It's an interesting choice to move that direction.
Does it feel to you like the longer this tournament has gone on, the more to the old style of drafting that was in HGC Korea do these drafts go?
Yeah, it does seem to be making, you know, kind of a step back, you know, almost like they had the idea of what was going to be most optimal and then some slight divergence backwards, kind of going, you know, maybe we were a little bit wrong about this. We didn't have it as perfected as maybe we had thought. But some innovation, you know, with the Nazebo. Nazebo has been relatively prevalent in this tournament specifically, but not necessarily that dominant throughout all of HGC Korea. Support is the only one left here. What does Merryday want to go on? Is it going to be, you know, you're talking about back to comforts with Malf already picked up, Lucio banned out. Do you see Merryday going to the Carvazim? Is that going to be the choice for him? Or do we see him move in a different direction when it comes to the supporting? I don't think it's going to be a Brightwing.
No, I was banking on the Carzine there.
It is, and they're going to lock it in. So a insane amount of offense coming out from this draft here for MVP Black. But a lot of forgiving heroes, you know, across the board for L5 when looking at their draft. You know, they have a double warrior, which is this kind of offensive. Li Ming and Zeratul both struggle into that. Varian isn't necessarily, you know, a premier warrior when it comes to the solo frontline, especially considering he does not have his Warbringer in the patch that we're going to be playing on. And Nazebo is amazingly forgiving when it comes to the HP to damage output. Granted, he doesn't dominate the early game, but as long as they don't fall too far behind in the early game, it's really not going to be that big of a problem. The only thing I am afraid of is the fact that you have a global and a solid early game coming out of MVP Black, which typically on Cursed, you don't snowball the game out of control on the first Cursed unless you do have a global advantage over your opponents.
What do you think is the plan with Variant here? Is there any major change up from what kind of build we've seen before? Because there's no extra crowd control to pair along with Warbringer to be able to just go off of the slows, because you're not getting a stun from that anymore.
Yeah, well, you did see in the last variation that we managed to see, it was Lions Bond to double W. So using the survivability tools with the damage prevented to be able to make up for the lack of hard CC, but then Lions Maw and the slow itself, you know, and having the E initiation is debatably going to be enough, or at least it was the variation that we had seen originally. And I don't see any reason to mix that up in this case, right? He is a solo warrior, so needs to be able to hold his own, especially with Karazim. You know, you don't want to be banking on committing too many resources to be able to aid your variant alone. He kind of, especially Meride, be on his own, be able to trade positively, drop a palm when you need, and then hopefully that's going to win the fight.
Whose job will it be to try to help make sure that Li Ming and Falstad stay safe then? Are they banking a lot on just being able to have Gust and even Void Prison if they need to use that just to be able to bail themselves out?
I think a lot of it comes down to a bit of, much like you see with Tyranic compositions, that whoever initiates first is going to be typically the most successful. And then if things do not work out perfectly, that palm is going to change the momentum into their favor as long as it lands. That being said, last time we saw Meride on Karazim, he throwed, I'm going to say it was 4 palms on himself and not a single one was successful. And that was against L5.
Yeah, the Korean region is well versed in being able to avoid even some of the best palms.
Yeah, I am going to be looking at Meride in this game. The skirmish and the potential that he's going to make happen in this game, the pressure he needs to apply. And again, there's such a forgiving composition on the side of L5 that I really feel like this game could very quickly be determined in about the first, I'm going to say at least probably right around 13 is going to be the breaking point. If it's anywhere near even, I'm very confident that L5 should be able to snowball this game into their favor, unless somehow Sake has just such immense global pressure there that they really can't deal with it.
There are so many comfort picks for MVP Black, so many heroes that they've played throughout HGC Korea, but noticeably is that they don't have Ragnaros to pair with Zeratul every time, except for I think 2 drafts where they had either Ragnaros or Zeratul throughout HGC Korea. They had one, they had the other. We're gonna see how that works out for them, who wins game number 1 as we head into Cursed Hollow. Welcome to Cursed Hollow for game number 1 of this best of 5 in our Eastern Clash Grand Finals. In the red, the members of MVP Black. In the blue, L5 will be looking to see if they can win a 3rd championship in a row.
And already out the gates, looking at the level 1 talents, we do see Murden moving into the Stormbolt, stacking their perfect storm.
5.
And, that's only... It's not, we've actually seen solo warrior Murden be able to run that and actually get away with it. But I think it's only going to be that much better, having that Tyrael to enable your ability to dive on the backline and provide that survivability. Lion's Maw, though, for the variant at level 1. We'll keep track if Tist moves in a different direction, but I'm pretty confident we'll see W at both 4 and 7 here for him.
Swift Retribution from Tyrael may even be added to help enable Noblesse's Murden just a little bit more, being able to use the extra movement speed and in that way still be able to get out of trouble, as we see Noblesse push the limits of his health bar very frequently when he plays his Murden. Yeah,
it is actually a really interesting, concept of when does Swift Retribution gain more value than how many melees you have to have, because it hits that Heroic Reforging allows you to have not only delay beyond in Holy Ground, ignoring that argument, just purely based on the fact of in the initiation at the exact same time that it's comfortable for both Greymane and Murden be able to move in. But that being said, if that isn't going to be timed properly, you have the opportunity to use that Swift Retribution for just absolute chase potential. It's just, I don't know, it's one of those things that is really fun to think about. When is it going to be more valuable than the other? That being said, I personally adore just the delay and Holy Ground opportunities there of Heroic Reforging.
Well, especially you and I have casted games where not having Heroic Reforging, not being able to have your Holy Ground for boss points later on could end up really hurting L5. But enabling Greymane, especially where he is relying just on Sanctification. Malfurion heals will be able to help as much as they can, and the shields from Tyrael. We'll see what Jungha picks at 4.
Yeah, but when it comes to the laning phases here, you know, L5 has managed to pick up a bit of pressure up in the top lane there with Sake by himself. Got it even, you know, not only one turret, but another one drained there. The 2-1-2 working out in the laning phase for MVP, or excuse me, L5. That being said, you know, MVP Black has pretty much just picked a... Falsett's really the only decent laner. The rest of them just really want to skirmish. They really want to fight, you know, in that kind of open territory and in those alleyways that exist here on Cursed Hollow. And both teams backing out to the respective giant camps. They're going to be timing there with that 215 to anywhere to 255, I believe, is the max timing of the tribute, and it's really just who's going to luck out. Global advantage exists for MVP Black, so as long as Sake properly rotates to wherever the Giants are, which obviously is now going to be top, if tribute spawns on bottom, it's going to be a slight advantage for MVP.
It's nice to have Greymane on L5's roster to help be able to jungle as much as he can. Mid lane still is getting pushed in to the towers, so MVP Black at least doing what we've seen them do before, where they will send both Tist and Kyocha back to the mid lane when it's time to clear that wave out, and then elsewise try to find a pick somewhere, since they are very focused on being able to skirmish a team fight.
Yeah, and we already see, because of the pressure applied through bottom, actually, Swoi has to take a very safe rotation outward. And 2 members here for MVP Black are going to stay on bottom and look for a gank onto Nazeebo, see if he sticks around too long. Our observer looks like he's waiting to see if he can scout it out, but for now, it just comes down to the tribute. Teams are going to remain patient. Nazeebo moves up. SCSC will end up going down. Merryday and Reset not going to have the damage here. And now L5 realizes, you know, they've got a man up here on this trip. They're going to be aggressors.
Tist trying to get out, used a shield wall, but the body blocks were too severe for L5. They'll get first blood. Yeah,
now Kyocha going to be on full retreat. Beautiful Stormbolt. Max range there for Noblesse is only going to prime another kill. L5 going to pull ahead early here in Cursed Hollow. Things about could not go worse for MVP Black, considering this is the first tribute. They had global pressure. They committed resources to a kill. Didn't work there, didn't work on the trib, and their global didn't have it in a position to, you know, get any kind of side soak. So things not looking good this early on. That being said, experience is close enough for them to be able to make up for it elsewhere.
Yeah, just the fact that if they can get a more favorable tribute fight in the next couple, having Sake, if they can delay at all, and they do have good delay heroes, mainly Li Ming will be the key if she can stall out for as long as she can. Both teams making the exact same rotation now to get bruisers to be set up for pushing in the mid lane for the next tribute fight.
Yeah, as a general rule, and Cursed Hollow is overall, you start out at 2 minutes and 20, you take your Giants, the tribute happens, you move to your Knights. Sometimes it's going to be not possible, depending on if a team has an overly dominant laning pressure or if you just struggle when it comes to the wave clear. But it looks like both teams are very comfortable with that kind of rinse and repeat strategy that we know so well. Li Ming is still sticking down on bottom with SCSC there on the Nazeebo. And the tribute has spawned in favor of MVP Black when it comes to safe posturing. So if L5 goes in, expect MVP to try and get that punish. Tist is transferring out, but you keep in mind, you know, that Elun's Grace,
yes,
Swoi is pretty much free delays all day when it comes to the positioning here in that little horseshoe.
Yeah, so annoying will Malfurion be with his Moonfires, and Tist isn't even really trying to channel, understanding that they don't have the setup and the zoning just yet, but Reset has started to rotate up.
Goes in there, a lot of pressure there from Merryday onto Swoi. Kyocha finishes out that channel. Noblesse dives in thinking he can maybe max Stormbolt that, but that's a lot of damage there onto Reset. He gets one, and that is going to be 2 members down. MVP is able to turn this. Nice protect there from Tis, letting him know, you know, establishing dominance. It's more about sending the message. He probably could have dodged it, but he's just like, hey, yeah, you know, I've got that invuln in there. I do want to note, though, in that rotation, once again, Reset was comfortable trying to wait for SCSC on that Nazeebo and moving out, and Nazeebo taking a very safe rotation. It just shows the heads-up play. Swoi and SCSC both understanding what MVP is going to be looking to do with this pick-oriented composition and just not even giving the opportunity when it comes to their rotations. So it's very difficult for, you know, a lesser team to be able to understand what the opponent's going to be doing and how do I minimize that as much as I can.
And they tried, but they did lose to MVP Black now, with that getting heroic abilities first, but both will be available on either side for this next tribute fight. 1-1 in tributes, looking at heroic abilities. Nothing too strange. Li Ming still considering what she's going to get.
That was not intentional. Swoy actually dropping Twilight Dream. That was fat finger all day. There's no way around that one. So that is going to be a heroic down here. We'll act like we didn't see it, Swoy. Trust me, we understand you're still one of the best supports in the world, but yeah, that is going to be a free tribute handed over here to MVP Black.
Well, it is the third best of 5 L5 will have played today. MVP Black getting a little more of a break since L5 played the last series versus Tempest. Granted, it was a 3-0, and we've seen teams be able to come all the way back through, even from Tempest's position. That happened to Team Dignitas.
One of my favorite things in comms ever is how a player reacts to fat fingering that. Because like it's a very, oh my goodness, hold on a minute here. Beautiful prediction on the rotation there of Nacho Jin, and that is a lot of damage for reset, but in fact, cannot confirm the kill. But just having that heads-up awareness, SCSE with a beautiful juke there.
Oh,
a lot of damage.
Nacho Jin dives back in. Reset's now the one in trouble. Can the team save him in time? Palm goes down. Void Prison 2.
And that is not going to be enough, but Reset is there to kill Swoy. And that is going to be one for him. He's out of mana, though. And it looks like L5 is going to be backing out here. A lot of cooldowns going to be traded. Another Palm not yet going to connect there for Merryday. It just seems like the communication of his Karzim played so far today has just not been as dominant as we saw during HGC Korea. Because I mean, he was just flat out putting on a clinic before.
Oh no, Bless is in trouble. Stormwolf goes out. He's not getting out of here. The zombie ball trying to help, but that is a kill just in time for a tribute, and this will be a tribute for an MVP Black curse.
Yeah, that was. I mean, things seem to be falling apart the minute that Twilight Dream was just used in the middle of the alleyway. And again, that's kind of a bit was what I was talking about. But we'll get to that in a moment, as that is going to be a taunt use cleanse as well. SESC ends up falling. Twilight Dream that time will end up hitting someone. But Sake gets the flight in. Things just, it is the domino effect against L5 so far into this game. Is 13 talent tiers almost going to be picked up. Kyocha hasn't shown on mid yet. I think he's just now showing. So L5 realized they're a man up. Not a talent tier down yet, but they cannot get that force.
All right, so you were saying about the comms?
It's really interesting because you make a noob mistake, is how I'm going to word it, right? Like a blatant, man, I'm sorry. And nobody can sit there and be like, what the heck, Because it's always going to happen to somebody someday, whether it be in a scrim, and you're just sad that it happened in a tournament setting. But you cannot kind of let it go. You have to be like, guys, I made this. And so there's like two different ways you can approach it, right? Like, and some players are just kind of like, oh, I made a really huge mistake. Oh my goodness. And that can actually, even though it's not that big of a deal, if you kind of make light joke of it, it seems like the morale is going to be like, all right, it's not a big deal. We'll figure it out later. But I have seen moments in comms where you can just make a big deal out of it, and suddenly it can be a bigger setback than maybe just losing a 70-second cooldown really can be. And originally I thought, that might not be that big of a deal in this situation, but just seeing the kind of trickle-down struggle that L5 has experienced, maybe, Swoy being like, team, and it hurting the mentality a bit here.
Yeah, I can't even imagine, because it's not just you. You're not playing for yourself.
Exactly.
You have 4 people relying on you, your teammates who have been your teammates, and at the end of the day, they're going to have your back, but still, grand finals against a team they just lost to. Scary start. Yeah,
I legitimately, when we were playing Soldier, actually judgmented a minion one time, and he just flat out was just like, I judgmented a minion. You didn't see that, so please don't fight. And the lightheartedness of it made it just so easy to forgive, and nobody was really kind of bugged by it. We've had other opportunities, though, I've experienced where it's just the exact opposite of the story. But for now, though, L5 was able to capitalize on the fact that, Sake looking for the forts, opening up the map here, 3 forts down. They do pick up the boss, but it's really not going to net too much other than this front wall.
Yeah, and this whole entire time, Zeratul and Falstad are still soaking in lanes. L5 trying to get maybe a little more aggressive to see if they can either force some of the members down or make sure that they can get the most out of the boss as they can. But with Zeratul moving out of the lane, they realize that they have to get back. They cannot get caught at this point because they are already down significantly in experience.
This is actually a very different story for a lead that we see for MVP Black in this game number 1 than we had. When they were successful, it was purely just off of skirmishing. That being said, they did do a great job of getting a couple of picks, but the fact that they opted towards a double soak there, working more towards the macro, getting that experiencing, furthering it elsewhere, was not what we saw, when they had success in L5 in the winners finals here. So it does seem, like they maybe are evolving a bit here when it comes to MVP Black. This is a lot more of the play I expected from them as a team before this tournament. 16 not available yet here for MVP Black. A small window for L5, but Noblesse just got chunked.
He did get chunked, no third win, but he's still going to start to get that increased healing from being down. They're trying to stop that, though. Hits him with the Lion's Fang.
Is going to land. Kyocha is going to get the zone there onto Noblesse. A lot of damage. He ends up dwarf tossing, lands the W, but good protect coming out from Tiss. Void's going to start the channel. Well, they're dropping the Void for this.
Void Prison's in the back. Now it's time to make something work with the resets on Li Ming, but Noblesse charging into the back line of MVP Black. And all of MVP have been zoned away for now. Noblesse gets taken out, so does Jungha.
Two people just instantly deleted their Sake going in for the flight. What's going to happen here? Gust with the barrel roll. Soy suddenly in a bad spot. Twilight Dream is dropped. Nazebo is going to ice block, merely just freezing time as he is going to go down here. And just, my goodness.
Oh my gosh! Reset, please!
Yeah, and Soy going for a moment where he's trying to get the juke and actually walking right into a mirror ball.
The mind games.
Yeah, just next leveling this, and that is just, you know, things crumbling here for L5. MVP Black now 9-2 in kills. A 2-level lead. All 3 forts have been removed. And now they've got themselves a boss. They do not have, you know, Void Prison to necessarily push with this. But it should, you know, the team looks like they're all just going to back a lot of them out of mana. But now that it's going to go top, it is going to force aggro from L5, which could lead to a mid-free front wall or pressure onto the bottom keep here. Typically, you just take out a front wall in this early bosses because they don't really do that much. So, but if you take out the front wall with the boss itself, you risk dying. So you just go to another lane there, realizing your opponent's, you know, unless you have a free win or somebody who can siege very effectively like Sergeant Hammer, it's going to be the safer choice. And MVP Black is just going to move right on here to mid and take out this wall.
I like to call it a choose how you lose situation, putting pressure into 2 different lanes at once, seeing how your opponents respond. And there's going to be a taunt. Kyocha dives on in. Noblesse for now is okay, goes into Avatar.
Yeah, and they even know that Sake actually just took that Giant Camp, so they know this is 4 versus 5. They really want this fight here. They're going to back out, though, when they quickly realize they're yet to be able to pick up 16. This minion wave should be able to get it for them. With the Tribute already spawning here, though, I don't think they're going to be able to make it on through as Tiss is already positioned for a solid dismount. Everybody looking like they're actually going to collapse. Look at Kyocha there up in the mid. He might flank on down. Sake starting the channel, and it's just going to be a forfeited Tribute here. 2-1 when it comes to the tributes here. Keep in mind, we've already experienced a curse in favor of MVP. But L5, they are on the same talent tier here for the first time in a long while, it feels like. They need to make sure they're going to be successful if they're going to turn around this first game.
Jungha now has Holy Ground, and with it, Herodic Reforging, he did end up getting that talent at level 4. So that will be very helpful when it comes to contesting bosses.
Yeah, Murden going with a more standard build there. Survivability across the board minus the level 1. But again, that is something we have seen throughout this tournament. It seems like it's a little bit more of a, you know, comfort or whatever your playstyle you really want to fulfill the most. Speaking of Murden, Noblesse and friends looking to make Merry Day have a pretty bad day. But he is not going to fall for this trap, at least not yet. Just absolute patience here for these teams. Tension sitting high. Keep in mind, this is game 1 of the grand finals, and L5 just came off a loss for the first time in a long while here. 3 championships in a row, seeming untouchable, nearly matching the legacy that MVP Black was able to build so long ago.
But a rough start at the beginning of this game. Clawing their way back into it very slowly, only about a couple of levels behind. L5 going to start their boss. They see that the tribute is going to be up in the top, not feeling like they can get into position for that. It is a very difficult position for them to try to contest. They're going to quickly, very quickly, rotate to their boss, take that, so at least that gives some counter pressure to MVP Black.
Yeah, and so MVP Black has now opted towards taking this curse while the boss is going to be pressuring through bottom. So they have now found themselves in a position where they need to make sure they capitalize. That boss will be able to get a keep front wall, maybe a little bit damage on the keep, but with everything disabled and the minions so squishy, it's not going to apply too much pressure. But they need to make something happen here. You know, opening up a keep is going to be the most optimal choice, but you can see they're so worried about hitting that 20. Man, I really wish they hadn't captured the tribute. This is the route they were going to go. So I was going to say I would like them not to capture it, but they instantly went for it because they were so close to 20. I thought they would just force, get a keep as fast as possible or double front wall and then take with their 20 advantage to pressure in, and that's a free keep. But now they're essentially wasting this, and it's something we see quite frequently actually on Cursed Hollow, where a team opts towards taking a boss while the other's getting the curse, and then suddenly you're like, well, the entire time I'm just wasting getting rid of that. That being said, it's only Sake, but it does feel like, you know, it's not maximizing the value of this curse, because now their next win condition is only going to be their boss, and Noblesse is going to try and stop this Giants.
Noblesse is going to stop the Giants, but I think MVP Black really, really want these, because if they could still be able to push in with the Giants, then maybe it could function the same way, even though not having cursed. Just try to protect those and still get a keep down once they got 20, but Noblesse with a great steal. The zombie wall 2 zoning away. MVP Black lose the Giants, but they may be able to take out Noblesse. What a great repulsion.
Absolute value there out of the repulsion, just launching directly into Tiss face. He's going to say thanks. That's a nice alley-oop here into a taunt. And so yes, the Giants were not falling for MVP. They very much being a man down with 20 advantage. They're going to be able to move up here. Sake getting the flight.
Void Prison 2, Sanctification on the other side of it. Merryday has another palm onto Kyocha. It doesn't go down. Jungha wants to chase Kyocha down, but just simply can't. SCSC on the back, super low. No further kills.
Solid heal, and the Storm Shield kept Kyocha up, but once again, maybe not as pretty as MVP Black was looking to make happen. Kyocha actually, I think, showing on mid, so they should know this is a 4 versus 4. There goes the Q in. My goodness, a lot of risks here when it comes to what fights MVP Black is comfortable taking. Even being down at 20, you know, at this point in the game, even going blow for blow, that could be enough of a setback that, you know, MVP Black can no longer get those win conditions. The boss is spawned up on top. That is what MVP Black really needs to be looking for lethal, that keeps sitting at half HP. This is going to be the moment. They have all their heroics up, or should nearly, whenever the boss gets to the core itself. It is an 18-minute boss with 20 advantage, Gust in 0. Okay, so Gust and Void should be enough to get a raw zone enough, but if they commit either one of those resources before they get to the core itself and they do not net a kill out of it, that doesn't mean it's game, as long as L5 moves past and they're successful in getting picks. That being said, it's a weak core no matter what. So this is a not fun position to be in if you're L5, but it's not GG, at least not yet.
Well, we're going to start with a taunt. Reset very close to being able to add the damage right on top of it. Noblesse already taking so much damage, but still has Avatar to be able to take more as he gets healed back up.
Reset just went from about 80% to 10 just off of one Nazebo Q, though. Nazebo has hit his, you know, max point here. The boss now getting past the keep. The taunt coming out. Cleanse is going to be used. Keep Noblesse up. There is going to be the Void. Keep in mind, this boss sitting at 50% HP. Noblesse moves on to dive onto the back line. Can they make it happen, Gilly?
Sanctification in the back. Nacho Jin doesn't have any help. Palm is proc. Twilight Dream, it hits a couple. But with the Gust, MVP Black can reset. Now Noblesse stuck on the other side. Taunt on a Noblesse. He dives over the wall.
He is going to be able to make it out, and look at that. Oh, but Noblesse actually getting chased by Kyocha. Swoy there with the heals, and the boss going to stun out Nacho Jin, but now 91% onto the core. And that's exactly what I was talking about when it comes to actual kill potential here at this point into the game with MVP. If they take that curse and they waste it like that, they have to be very efficient, considering, again, you know, bosses are not lethal until they hit around that 18, 19, 20-minute mark. And with the keep up, just wasn't going to be it here, at least not yet. I mean, obviously, MVP Black still very much in control of this game, but I feel like, you know, if they had been a bit more patient with the curse play that they had during that second curse rotation, they would be very much in a position where at minimum double keep, you know, that pressure alone is enough to be able to open it up. But L5 has a window. They've got the same talent here.
Yeah, the sheer will to start so down in this game and then claw themselves back. Miracle defense holding at core, 91% down, but still having Giants to help push up in that lane. Finally, now they can fight on even talent tiers. There's a tribute to fight over too, and a boss in this bottom lane as well.
I really think that Jungha there, oh my goodness, the taunt combo coming out onto Noblesse. So much damage. Keep in mind, Twilight Dream and Sanctification not up yet here. Noblesse being able to self-sustain enough to keep him up. Dwarf tossing out Kyocha, looking for that flank. Void Prison's up. He's going to use it here, only hitting one. Not necessarily what you want. And look at Nazebo just spreading that poison.
Sake has yet to use Gust. They could if they really need to. He's going to fly into the mid. They're going to give up the tribute. MVP Black feeling like they could get everybody out very quickly. Sake makes a risky rotation into the mid lane. Zeratil's going to come to help. Everyone from L5 starting to move back into position.
Oh, that Moonfire, though, blind to be able to scout it out, expecting somebody into that choke. Sake has enough pressure. He does manage to get this keep, so another one falling here for MVP Black, but they have let, 2/3 of this curse go over to L5. Bottom boss still is going to exist. Greymane there sitting around for the scout. Actually starting it. MVP knows. Falset is still on the top, but he has Epic Flight. He just used it. He should be just fine. Scooting his way just down here to bottom. Good split, though, onto Tis for Jungha.
Roots and Zombie Wall. Cleansing Touch to get reset out. Tist is in trouble. Has Shield Wall, so that's protection.
Oh, Twilight Dream
it!
is canceled, though. Sanctification is going to be there to baby them. Gus is going to be available here. One member falling already for MVP Black, but so is Swoy. So 1-for-1, no support for L5, though. Things are not looking good. Mary Day with another palm that has got to be questionable here.
And he doesn't have Peaceful Repose, so that is down. It is down for the full duration. Man, losing your support, losing your warrior. I thought maybe Black could stay in, but losing Palm and Mary Day needing to go back. This is a weird moment for MVP Black. They don't have Tis, the better positioning set up, or they don't have Swoy on L5 side either.
Yeah, losing Palm there was, oh man, that was almost very close to not stopping the back of Jungha. Losing Palm there was enough to not win that fight. If Palm had been saved or used in a way that actually gained value, having your support over, especially when Sanctification is already going to be used, you win the long fight already, just purely having sustain there. Almost always killing the support is the most valuable fight here. Keep in mind, Greymane not here to join the fight. Sake questioning if he's got the flank, but no Gus for 4. He's going to back out here. So we're back to, all 5 members available for both sides. 1 tribute away from Curse for either side. But that boss, that is the lethal here for L5. That is their only moment of major win condition. MVP Black, though, can get a Curse, and they can end the game now. With 2 keeps down, Curse in this late in the game is a win condition, even though typically it is not.
L5 don't realize that this boss is spawned up in the top.
That is game. That is game right there.
They're just now starting. I don't know if they... Oh, no.
That's game. That was one miscalculation. They had no idea the boss was going to be spawning at that time. And a 5-man, there is about a 0% chance they have enough delay. With so much control between Void and Gust here, things are absolutely terrible for L5, but they're going to try. They try and get the force, and Void already used L5 losing 1 member.
Greymane's out, resets out of control. He has the resets now, gets hit by Twilight Dream, though. L5 trying to get this fight started. Ice Block, Gust, and Palm used all at the same time. Swoy, the next to be taken down. Reset continuing to get these resets as Li Ming. Jungha looks to be the next to fall, or SCSC as Mary Day dives in.
Meanwhile, in top lane, the boss just stomping its way down. 23-minute boss. That is going to be it here. The kills is going to rip through the shields, and it's only a matter of time here. L5 falling so far behind. Kills 15-3. But just, oh my goodness, MVP Black, man. So controlled in this game.
Yeah, very controlled with the timing of their heroics, with when they want to fight. Even things like Sake realizing so quickly that that fight was not going to work as planned for Tribute and flying to mid, knowing that the minion wave is enough, and then barrel rolling over the wall.
And then when we saw these 2 teams playing in the winners finals, I was constantly talking about how L5 was always known as the rotational macro team and MVP Black as that battling one. And then MVP Black, every time they could bait L5 into not getting split pressure and consistently making that happen, they would end up winning those skirmishes. But that was a moment where we got to actually appreciate 2 times in that game where they opted towards avoiding a skirmish that they typically would take, worrying about the macro game and furthering their lead there. And that is that slight evolution I was talking about that we hadn't seen from them, at least in the last series. So I'm suddenly going where before I was like, so, I think MVP Black is going to be the better team, but can they learn those things? And their performances before today were so weak that I was like, I don't think they have it. But now if they play the same way, understanding a little bit of both, having the macro, but also having that early game pressure they always have been known for, L5 suddenly is, and the underdog, I think, in the series, not even just after losing that last one, just MVP's got a little bit of everything, and L5 doesn't have the answer yet.
Yeah, it's like finally the synergy that we have been waiting for, and we have seen possibilities of with Tist and Reset is working out just solely because they've had these 3 days together of long play and being able to work out all of the kinks in that synergy.
Let's also take a minute, though, to look at the other side. L5, that game got out of control purely off of 1 Twilight Dream.
Yes.
That legitimately, obviously, was a fat finger there. no question about it. So.
And then the boss.
Just things got worse the entire time. There was a moment where it was like, okay, they perfectly played the 16-minute boss moving in, the half keep, right? You have two options. Both of the cooldowns were used. They moved past, they bought time, and they all survived. Like, that was played very, very well. That being said, that ever since the Twilight Dream hit, it was just worse and worse and worse. There were windows never capitalized on, but if we avoid that, you know, if suddenly L5 is the team that gets that control early on, does MVP Black have the tools to be able to adjust? That's what I'm looking for in game 2.
A lesser team, though, after that would have completely fell apart.
Absolutely.
They had such good defense, and they have the time together as a team to be able to sit back, say, okay, there were just some mistakes there. This is not series ending at this point. They will need to rely on that, though.
Yeah, and, you know, I mean, I'm going to flat out say it at this point, too. L5, the support choke is a valuable strategy into Mary Day. I mean, those palms are not good. That's going to be the simple wording. Not good. Every one of those palms, you know. I wouldn't be that bad if it was one. You know, I get it. Because sometimes it's just like, well, they didn't proc it, but I won the fight because they didn't confirm the kill onto somebody.
Yeah,
like,
you got somebody out.
Not every palm that doesn't hit is a bad palm.
Right.
Every palm the last 2 times he's played Karazim are a bad palm. Like, I'm comfortable just flat out saying that. They have not been good. They haven't been even close to, like, I understand that. Maybe you could argue into Li Ming being out of position in the last game at the